I'm just going to start. I'm so excited to be here today to talk to you, Pete Brown. And I've been wanting to do this for 7 years. And we have a mutual really good friend, Scott Furlot. And years and years and years ago, he's like, you got to meet Pete. He's just the most incredible guy, nicest person, incredible story.
If you don't stop this in 10 minutes, I'm going to get upset.
Yeah. And then I was nice enough to the guys here at BNV Media, talk to Mark, and I was like, I want to do my first video podcast. I think I'm ready. And then you were the first person I wanted to interview. And I had a lot of choices, but you were the first one that I thought the story would resonate the most with the most people.
I'm very humble. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. So let's just get into it. Who are you? Why? Like, where are you from? We'll start there. Who are you? Where are you from?
So I'm Pete Brown. Like I said, my mother would tell you different. She'd tell you that my name is Peter. But outside of that, I'm from Corner Brook, Newfoundland originally, born there in 1973. And moved to Nova Scotia after my parents got divorced about 1980. So I tell everybody that I'm from Newfoundland, Dartmouth. Been back and forth my whole life. Spent some years in Newfoundland, but most of it was up here in Nova Scotia and in Dartmouth, which we call the dark side.
Right. Yeah.
So, like I said, my parents were divorced, separated and divorced when I was 5. Came up here, and I'm going to step it back even a little bit more. So my father was in conflict with the law, addiction issues, and I remember being told the story that my grandfather, my mother's father, actually wrote a letter because my father was incarcerated while my mother was pregnant. So he wrote a letter to the institution or parole board to get my father released early so they could be married before I was born, so I wouldn't be born a bastard.
Oh, wow.
So there's where my story starts.
There it is. Before.
So, one way or another, I've been involved with the system since before I was born, and the carceral system.
Right.
So growing up, I watched him flip back and forth between my parents. My mother living here, my father living in Toronto or Newfoundland. He went back and forth between the two provinces. And I went back and forth between my parents, living with them at different times. I watched my father become incarcerated, deal with his addiction, his anger issues. He was a big man, 6'2", 250 pounds. So he was a formidable man, had serious anger issues, violent. And so I watched this stuff. And when I was young, I hated it.
Mm-hmm.
Then when I got into my teenage years, I stopped wanting to be a victim at some point. And the only way I knew not to be a victim was to be the aggressor.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what I grew up watching.
Mm-hmm.
By the time I was 18, I was well into my addiction, smoking dope and drinking quite often.
And was this in Newfoundland or Dartmouth?
No, this was here I was both.
Okay.
Yeah, because my father lived in Newfoundland when I was a teenager as well. So I went back and forth, like I said. And so it was both spaces. And it didn't matter where I was, there I was.
Yeah, exactly.
So, there were obviously some differences, but my addiction was progressing. Because the first time that I had gotten high, I remember going to school, I was 13.
Yeah.
And I smoked dope with my father.
Yeah.
In Toronto. And I remember going to school the next day, and I remember telling my friends, I said, there's these 2 Cuban brothers, and we were best buddies. And I remember looking at them going, man, I smoked dope yesterday. And I said, I could have got comfortable in any position. And I said, I could have been standing on my head and I would have been comfortable. That's what I remember from it. And I didn't realize until decades later that it had nothing to do with physical.
Mm-hmm.
It was a mental thing. It was a coping.
Right.
I wasn't scared. There was no fear because around the old man, I walked on eggshells.
Right.
And even though he never physically beat me up, there was the threat of it was always there.
Right.
So when the first time I got high, that's what I remember from it.
So 13.
13.
So if I could just add, so I got drunk when I was 15,
Right.
the first time. And then I remember I was talking about this recently with someone. I remember waking up in the morning saying I felt like a superhero.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
So a little background on how Pete and I first met, and how we started talking was, so I'm a recovering alcoholic and Pete's in recovery as well. So, I had so many people to introduce to this gentleman from New Zealand who came over, who wanted to meet people from the First Nations and from addictions and in the addiction world. And he met you, and we were just both blown away by your honesty. And I've spent so much time in the rooms all over the world, actually. And so many people live in the past. They live, I was there. I was, I did this. And they don't live in the future. They don't live in the present or to the future. So I'd like everyone to understand your story from the back, not as a war story of like, oh my God, you'll never believe what Pete Brown did.
Right.
Because I mean, if you're talking about,
it used to be that way at one time.
Of course it did. It always was. And but that's not why I want you to be the first person that I interviewed. Not at all.
Right.
It's because when I've seen you speak, and when I've brought other people to see you speak, like my girlfriend or the gentleman from New Zealand, they were like, they left, and the word that they all thought was hope, salvation.
Yeah.
And that's it. So why I want to go into the background story is not so everyone could be like, I mean, it is an amazing story, but don't get me wrong, but it's not for that. It's so people understand like what you're saying has value because you've walked the walk.
Right.
And then but now you live a life that's, I mean, hopefully we can tell the story about the Harley Davidson.
Right.
And then someone can tell us how many CCs it has. But so let's go into the story of like from the Cuban brothers in Toronto. And then, and the only reason we're doing it is to get to the point so people can understand like there is hope. Because
I'll give you the short version.
Yeah, because I want people to. We only have 45 minutes, and Mark's going to kick us out. Anyways, but so that so what I want is people like I got a message the other day from someone from Whitehorse, and the phone rings for me all the time about alcohol. It's either alcohol, drugs, or sex. One of the three, usually the addictions. So for someone that's listened to this, I want it for those people to hear it and be like, I can still have hope. And then the other people are kind of like, they maybe not have a problem with addiction. It could be that they're just missing that joy in life. And you also just have that, for that, just that beautiful energy. So so we'll go into the story from the Cuban brothers forward, but the focus, I just want to make sure that everyone understands we're not telling war stories here. It's to get us to a place of how you live with such joy and hope, how much energy you expand in every day and why you do it. That's kind of really why I want to do this.
That's great, Mark. Yeah. Great way to open it, let people know where we're going with this. There's a couple of things that I want to kind of put forward, and it may trigger some questions a little bit later, but two things that I've really been focusing on recently, two things that I've learned and heard. One is that I had an allergy to myself. Right? So true, though. But when you stop to think about it, I had an allergy to myself. I could not be with Pete. And I was always looking for a way out my entire life. And I did not know that was a thing. Second,
some of these expressions from recovery are so annoying, but they're so true.
Right?
Right?
100%. Like, I just did not want to be with Pete. So I found every possible way to get out of him. The second biggest thing that I've been really promoting lately is one of the biggest misconceptions out there when you're dealing with people with addictions, conflict with the law, mental health. You should know better. That's a massive misconception.
Well, it's not just for people that are addiction or recovery. I mean, I have some friends, like I got a buddy who's a doc and TO, and like he was told recently, "Oh, you should know better." He's like, the doc and ER doc who's running the show, and he was doing some stuff with like different mental health cases and the homelessness because like 2/3 of the people, and they're like, well, you should have figured it out by now. He's like, I'm so, like, so that word should is so powerful.
Perfect example.
Yeah.
So these are the types of things that when you're talking about trauma, mental health, addictions, all these types of things, generational trauma, all these types of things. And people will say, as soon as a person hits 18, you're an adult, you should know better. But it's such a misconception. If you were never taught any different, then you don't know any different. So when my, to go back to, 13, started using drugs, I didn't know any better. I'm like, oh, this is perfect. This makes me feel good about being with Pete. And it just progressed. And I realized today that there's mental health issues obviously going on, the OCD, right? And then of course ADHD. I've never been diagnosed with either of these, but I'm sure I should have been years and years ago. Like when I was a kid, it was like, there was I don't remember any of my friends being ADHD. I remember all the parents saying, "What the hell is wrong with that youngster?" Right? That was how they diagnosed us back in them days, right? Smarten up,
Yeah, I can relate. 100. As a person who was asked to leave 3 schools, I can 100% relate to that.
There you go.
Yeah.
So that's the reality, right? So when my progression to addiction was immediate, and it was aggressive, and my obsessiveness to substances to get myself out of Pete was very progressive, very quickly. I was one of the ones that was willing to try almost anything if you put it in front of me. There were a few drugs that I wouldn't try until later on. And probably because deep down I knew once I tried them, they would have this huge impact on my life. By the time I was 18, my addiction was full-fledged. I was doing break and enters locally here in Dartmouth to supply the habit. There was a little crew of us. Got arrested, and because I was 18 and the 2 guys I got arrested with were 17, I was the ringleader. I was the adult. I should have known better.
There you go.
Right? So they sentenced me to federal time. The other guy that got caught with me got 3 months provincial or juvenile. And
in the valley?
No, here in the city. Yeah, here in Dartmouth. And the third guy ended up beating the charges. So I got 3.5 years federal. Second guy, 17, got 3 months juvenile. The other guy ended up beating the charges. So with this 3.5 years, I go into the federal penitentiary. Not old enough to drink, not old enough to vote, but they'll send me into, a federal penitentiary with men. Very susceptible at that time, as you can imagine, 18 years old. Grabbed onto my father being in conflict with the law, addiction issues, grabbed onto the lifestyle very easily. Again, survival skills kicked in. I had to learn to live by a code, which I learned very quickly. I call it the University of Bad Habits. But that's where I was. That's the, right? Con school, right? And when
That's the best way I've ever heard that described. That's funny.
But it's 100% true.
Yeah.
If you take everybody with poor coping skills, poor life skills, and you put them all in one space, and then you expect them to come out better.
Yeah, that's not.
It doesn't work that way.
Doesn't make much sense.
So by the time I turned 19, they put me in maximum security prison. I spent a year up there before I got out. And when I got out, I come out with this chip on my shoulder the size of an oak tree. The world owed me, and I was here to collect. And, I had done some break and enters and a robbery to get that first sentence at a hotel. We did like $360 was the robbery. When I came out after 25 months of incarceration, I started robbing banks. So there's your progression. I was 20, turning 21 that summer. And within 6 months, I was picked up and charged with 2 bank robberies. Again, my addiction was full-fledged. At that time, it was like THC and alcohol. But I was doing it every day. And when they arrested me for the 2 bank robberies, I was sitting on remand, and that's the first time I tried crack cocaine. When I get sentenced, they dropped 1 robbery, and I pled guilty to the other one. During that incarceration, I tried my first opiate, tried my first syringe, and like I said, University of Bad Habits. So what happens is progression. We know that, right? And when you are exposed to certain things, it makes those things normal.
Yeah.
So being incarcerated, we expect people to know better.
Right.
To learn.
Right, of course.
To correct.
And on the inside, you got to know the code. Like you have to be
You have to learn to live by the code to survive.
And then, but you also have a different face when you're in a different setting. Like you have to be more than one person.
And the more time that you spend in any environment, the more you absorb, those living skills. And the problem is during incarceration, when you are released, those skills don't fit in the community.
Yeah.
So, I always tell people to put your hands together, put your hands together like this, and then move your hands over one space, move your fingers over one space.
Yeah.
I feel how awkward that is.
Yeah, it's super awkward.
Right? Because everything in you is screaming at you, change it back, change it back.
Yeah.
Imagine if you had to do that with your whole life.
Yeah.
How awkward and weird. So when you're talking about addictions, you're talking about people that have been incarcerated, these changes are huge, right? So it's not about this short-term fix. There's no one thing that's going to fix everybody, and it drives me crazy because when I hear people say, this is the be-all, end-all, this is the way that you're going to fix people, that's not true, right? And throughout my experience of, lived experience with the addictions and incarceration, but then also going back to school, working in the field, I've come to realize that there's so many siloed programs and those types of things that are just like, this is the only way it works. And that's not true.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's one of the big reasons I want to have this podcast, why I want to do the show, why I want to have a channel, is because I want to present all the different ways, right? Exactly. So for me, it's very clear breathing and meditation is what got me sober. There's not even a question. I wouldn't be alive if I didn't start breathing and meditating. Right. There's not even I was drinking and doing so I started doing whatever. So basically it was going bad. All that matters, it was going bad. I don't need to tell war stories. And I started breathing and meditating, and that's my way. And I will tell everyone, learn Sudarshan Kriya, go meditate with Sri Sri Ravi Shankar. I think he's the most amazing man in the world. It's been great. He's my spiritual teacher. But that's my way. Right. And I want everyone to have an option to know that exists. But I know that that's not everybody's way. People have different paths.
That's right.
And I think it's extremely important for people, like the 12 steps. I love the 12 steps. I couldn't believe what I learned from the 12 steps. I was like, oh, it's me. It's it's not, my teacher. It's not my grandparent, my dad, whatever. And so that's the learning the different ways that people deal with things is. So yeah, okay. So we'll take it then. So then, how did you go from? So you're incarcerated.
Oh, we get to a certain point in our lives, just to capitalize.
Yeah. I want to make sure
we get to a certain point in our lives where we have to stop being a victim of our past.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So we have to make that conscious decision that I'm not going to let my past dictate my future anymore.
Honestly, I don't think people. Okay, so until 2019, I didn't know that was real.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Most people don't.
So every time I mention the guy from California that I basically bumped into, he took me to a meeting and we got super close. We talk all the time. You met him, Randy, and that amazing guy. But he's like, maybe it's maybe it's you, and you really because my mom died, right. And I must have told, anything. It's oh, water bottle. Oh, my mother drank a water bottle. Oh, she's dead. Right. I could work it into anything. And I knew it was a victim card. And then he was like, how many times you can tell that story? Yeah. Do you want to live there forever? I'm not saying you don't learn and acknowledge and all that stuff, but it's 100%. So for me, that was huge. And then I think when I speak to a lot of people, I have to have so much, like I say this, patience, kindness, and grace. They might not know that they're telling a story. They're trapped in a narrative that they're like some people will live like they're 16 years old.
Right.
You can even tell by the way they dress, their hairstyles. They live at a certain epoch, a different era, and acknowledging like, okay, yeah, these things happen. Not like condoning. It's just, okay, accepting and then going forward instead of like, like this happened to me, or like, oh, well, I was 18 by 3 days and then I went to jail for 21 months and these other two guys got nothing. Like, why shouldn't I do all this? Like the world owes me. Right. And I think that's a big thing I wanted people to take away from this.
Self-centeredness.
Yeah. And and also like maybe that's all you were taught as a kid, to be self-centered. So to be aware, like, oh, I am and
society
not beat yourself up.
That's not just parents or generational.
Right.
That's society.
And not beating ourselves up from it and saying, oh, I'm like, I'm the worst. It's just, okay, this is what I did. This is where I was. This is and what can I do now? How can I move forward? And then that's the thing is, what's your way? Is it breathing and meditation? Is it exercise? Is it making a garden? Is it, I don't know, whatever. There's 1,000 different things people do, but you got to find your way. Drive a motorcycle through the Rockies.
Through the Rockies, that's right.
So how did you get, so you're incarcerated, and then how did you start to find a way, you know what I mean? Instead of just speak, how come you aren't incarcerated today? Like, how did you get out?
So just to kind of cap, I did a total of 3 federal prison sentences, 2 provincial sentences, which totaled 16 years. 12 of that I spent inside, and 4 of that I was in a maximum security. So I was a mess. And by the time my career was coming to a close, there was only a couple of ways out. Right. It was a life sentence. Somebody was going to kill me, or the drugs were going to kill me, because the things that I was doing, I tell people all the time, like I had probably about a $1,500 a day habit. And so you can imagine, and I never worked. My job was the streets. Right. So I was hustling every day.
And there was a detail following you at some point, right, as well?
Oh, yeah. Well, it was everything. I mean, like there was, the police were at me all the time. I mean, had created beefs out on the street where there was actually people showed up at my house, 20 of them one night looking for me. So there was a lot of different situations that it was only going to end one of 3 ways. Right. I remember the first time when I decided I want to change was when I read a victim impact statement, because I had this self-preserving belief that the only people I was hurting was the insurance companies or the banks, and they were the biggest crooks anyway. So, I was like Robin Hood.
Yeah, you're a hero,
right? That's robbing from the rich, giving to the poor. But that's the belief system that I had to tell myself to survive this. Yeah. And I read a victim impact statement and realized at that point the ripple effects that I was having with the things that I was doing, because I'd never seen it, because I'd put a blinder up to all that stuff. That was the first point of change. And it probably didn't hurt that they threatened me with the dangerous offender, which was, an indeterminate sentence because of the robberies and stuff that I was doing and the violence. So when I actually started to make serious change was my last sentence. I had been incarcerated for stealing a police car and smashing it all up. And my girlfriend, I was just getting ready to plead guilty and take a 2-year sentence for it. And she was in recovery, and she was stressed out about me being gone for so long. She relapsed for a weekend, went out, got high, and I talked to her on the phone. She'd come home after a couple of days out. And I was talking to her on the phone, and when I called back, she actually fell asleep when I was talking to her. And when I called back the next morning, her mother answered the phone. She had overdosed. So I was actually the last person to speak to her. I actually listened to her fall asleep. And I went to the funeral, and I made a promise to her in the casket. I'm like, I'm going to change. That was the last time I was incarcerated. And then, so I had still struggled with addiction. I went on methadone. I was on methadone like 3 times throughout my life, once for 5 years, once for a couple of years, which saved my life. I'm not taking anything away from that stuff, because I'm telling you, if it hadn't have been for that, I probably wouldn't have made it. Then I had a brother overdose and die. And his body just couldn't take it anymore. It was alcohol and pills that he prescribed, and 30 years old. And I was 40 at the time. And his last text to me was, "When are you coming out?" I was supposed to go out with him, and I stayed home and got high instead. And he died. My parents found him, and then I remember standing at his funeral and looking around, and I was crushed, right? My little brother, and I was just devastated. And I remember thinking that if I don't change something, I'm going to do this to everybody in this room. And that was in November of 13, March of 14, I went to Detox, completely changed my life. Got involved with Narcotics Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous, you name it. Like I was like starving for something different. We have a saying, we don't have to change much, just everything. Right?
Yeah.
Kind of like that hand thing I was just talking about.
So true.
So, friends, places, everything. And I didn't know how to do that. So last house on the block, place that kept inviting me back in the 12-step programs,
Yep.
They were there with open arms. Come on in. I'm like, I'm not used to this. Most places are closing the doors and putting down the blinds and saying, "Shh, it's Pete." Shh, right?
Yeah.
So the only ones that welcomed me with open arms had the blue and white cars, right? So, they were just tired of seeing me. But I opened my mind up to something different, and I allowed myself to learn. I was willing to learn, and I opened my mind up to it, and I was hungry. And I knew that I had to commit right from the beginning. And like I said, I went to every meeting that I could possibly go to. The ones that the provinces offered, like I said, all the different anonymous programs, you name it, I was there. If somebody said, "Let's go to this meeting," I'm like, "Yep, let's go." I just absorbed it, soaked it in, right? So then I had, I don't know, probably 9 or 10 months in, and somebody had talked about this 7-step program that is for people that have been incarcerated. Because it was always something that I felt like I was missing because people didn't fully understand the trauma of being incarcerated, which you wouldn't call it when you were going through it because you got to be big and tough and hard, and and so you don't talk about I was never traumatized. I'm not a victim, right? So we were kind of like on the other side of things. You couldn't be a victim because it would make you vulnerable, and vulnerability was a no because that would just make you more of a victim. So anyway, so I found these wonderful support groups, and I started to connect with people. Started to grow, started to evolve. And when I started doing this stuff, like I said, I grabbed on with both hands. I was like, you know what? Show me, teach me. And I was willing. And even the times when I didn't want to go, that's when I would push myself to go even further. It's kind of like, going to the gym, right? If you go to the gym and you start working out and you're like, I don't want to go today. Now, all of a sudden, when you do go, all of a sudden you get the best workout you've had in months. It's no different, and it would be the exact same things when I would push myself that little bit extra. In these groups, I started hearing talking about education. I started hearing talking about giving back. Huge part of recovery. So there's three pillars that we talk about all the time, is mental, physical, and spiritual. So these are 3 things that we had to fill out. And I started educating myself about this stuff. And you and I were talking about that journey, what that looks like for each individual. And I'm a big believer in not siloing anybody.
So
find
important.
what works for you.
Yep.
But 3 things that you had to look at: physical, mental, spiritual. You had to take care of those 3 things. As human beings, we need to fulfill those 3 things. If I'm not taking care of myself physically, which I've been struggling with lately since COVID, right? Pre-COVID, going to the gym, walking, doing all this stuff. COVID hit, shut me down. I fell into old habits again. So physical.
But that's good for people to hear that too, because one of the things I talked about this when I was on a podcast last month, and like you're still flawed. You're still like it's like
humans,
Pete.
man.
You're not Pete Brown, and
No.
like it's not like Jesus and Pete Brown. Or, you know what I
No,
mean?
not even close.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's nice for people to hear that, to like, because I think that people think it's one step forward, 3 steps back, then 1, 2, 3, and then you're 4. Then that's all gone. It's like, no, you still have stuff. We always have stuff, and
close. Yeah,
that's a big thing I talk to about with Randy all the time. I was like, when is this going to end? He goes, I'm pretty sure the day you die. Because until then, because he's 81, he's like, I'm still learning stuff.
Or who knows what's on the other side.
79. Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, it's like, it doesn't end. Like, so you were going to the gym and then COVID and then you're not going to the gym. But so people don't think it's just some.
And then I got caught up in like work.
Sure.
And I got my license, which I never had. So it just, and I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying this is what happened. And then I struggle with it. So I start getting back into it, and then I would fall out of it, get back into it, fall out of it. And I always find something productive. I say, well, I'm doing this.
But there's
I'm working more, or
sure.
I'm doing more meetings,
sure.
or I'm sponsoring more, or I'm mentoring more, or so that's okay that I'm not doing this.
Right.
But the reality is that there's always something to work on.
Right.
If I turn my back on something, if I stop paying attention to it, it's going to creep.
Yeah.
That's the reality.
Yeah.
Right. So prayer, meditation, I get right into that. Sometimes I'm like, I'm a guru, right? Pete the guru, right? And then all of a sudden I skip one.
Yeah.
And then I'm skipping another one. And then all of a sudden I'm going, well, I haven't done my prayer and meditation for a week or two. Then a couple more weeks pass, month pass. I'm like struggling.
So here's a question that's
time.
coming up right now is, what do you say to your sponsees or to yourself in those situations? Like
back to basics.
Okay.
Back to basics. So what worked for me in the beginning? What is it that worked for me? So normally I had to start reaching out more. This is my basics. Get back to meetings, writing my step work, doing my prayer and meditation, connecting with my higher power, and exercising, talking to my sponsor, talking to my network, being honest, right? Those are all, because there's usually something that's in there that I'm hiding, or that I'm not doing right, or that I'm struggling with and I'm not talking about it, or I'm not doing any action about it. I may be talking about, I could sit there and go on and on and on about the same thing for months and not do a damn thing about it. No action. And all of a sudden I'm here and I'm like, obsessing. Right. Because that's my disease. Is the obsessive compulsiveness, right? So I'm like obsessing about, and I can obsess about anything. Yeah. I tell people this all the time. I will obsess about a peanut butter and jam sandwich. Do I want smooth peanut butter? Do I want craft peanut butter? Do I want no-name peanut butter? Do I want white bread, brown bread? Do I want whole? What am I going to cut the crust off? Am I going to toast it? Am I not going to toast it? What kind of jam? Exactly. And then I'm like, at the end of it, I'm like, fuck it, I don't even want the sandwich. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, because I get so overwhelmed.
I do understand.
I'm a doer, so I had to get up and I had to start doing something right away. This is one of my strengths. If I don't, the longer I sit around, the less that I do.
Sure.
And then I get into that frame of getting overwhelmed.
Sure.
Prayer and meditation, huge for me. It clears my mind, lets me talk to my higher power, the God of my understanding, and whatever that is, people can choose that. When I first decided to go down this road of spiritual, trying to connect with something spiritually, and I went to everything, you name it. Like I went to sweat lodges, I went to all kinds of different churches, I went to meditations, I went to, you name it. If anybody said anything or somebody said something that they were doing, I'd be like, let's check it out. It's all educational to me. And what I did was I took a bunch of pieces and I created what works for me in my life.
Beautiful.
Right? Here's something that I've come to realize when a person is struggling to change their life. If you come from the background that I've come from, things that have worked for me is structure and accountability. I have to have that. My entire life, I handed it to somebody else. First, it was my parents. As soon as I was out of the house, it was prisons, paroles, courts, whatever it was. I never had to hold my own accountability. Somebody else structured my life.
Mm-hmm.
I never learned. I never knew better. I never knew how to structure in my own life. And that's why we always talk about in the meetings, this many meetings, 90 meetings, 90 days, get a sponsor, get a home group. That's structure. People don't even realize that that's what we're doing, is that we're creating structure in our lives and accountability. Purpose is huge. We see it so much in society today. People have no purpose. And that's why you have so much mental health issues. You have so many people that they're struggling with life. They have no purpose. They've never even sat down and thought about what their purpose is. Because if you give a person purpose, you give them hope. There's something else. There's something to work towards. It gives me that purpose for life, and I never had that. I didn't even know what it was. I thought my purpose was just chaos,
right?
The atheist anarchist, and I was proud of it, right? I was like so proud to be this atheist, survival of the fittest, and it was all about this stuff. And but here's the funny thing of this: I had this huge resentment towards religion and God. So, but I didn't believe in it.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
How's that work?
Yeah, right.
How's that work?
Right.
I get this massive, huge resentment, but yet, on the other hand, if you ask me, no, I don't believe in that stuff. But yet, I could ring off verses from the Bible. I could do all this stuff. But no, I don't believe in none of that stuff. I have this.
You've been sober how long?
It'll be 11 years next week.
Amazing. You graduated from the community college, right?
Yep. Social services program at
Social
NSCC. Yeah.
You are in charge of the 7th step for your current employer?
Yeah, so currently I'm the national program manager for 7-Step Society of Canada, and we'll be moving into the executive director role as of April 1st.
Clapping. So I because I know we could talk about that for a long, long time.
Oh yeah.
So you've been. I mean, probably we'll do another one of these, hopefully. But I really want to get to this today. So I really want people to take this away. So your story is one of hope, I believe, and the fact that you graduated from the.
Mark, I have a saying. I used to hustle dope, but now I hustle hope.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that your saying?
That's my saying.
Oh, well, then, sorry, I say that again?
I used to hustle dope, now I hustle hope.
Like whoa.
Okay,
but we could
get
start.
the T-shirt, right?
Yeah. Okay, so that is what I kind of felt like that was, you do hustle hope. Yeah. It's true. And I couldn't even believe you were real when I first met you. I was like, this can't believe, like you say I robbed a bank so casually. It's like, oh yeah, I had a paper route. I used to paddle in the war canoe. I robbed some banks. Oh, then I went to, it's like, you say it. So it was, I met you and I'm like, and then I talked to Scotty and he was like, yeah, no, man, it's legit. And then I saw you in some meetings and then I went to that talk and it was hope. That's what we got that day. So hope, accountability, higher power. So if you could talk to someone struggling like we were at one point and how would you let them know it's possible for them? Not for Pete or for Mark, for them. And that's first, how is possible for them to get sober, really, and live with joy, not sober and be a prick. Like some people are sober pricks, whatever, or jerks, whatever. And then the higher power thing is the one that I have people talk to me the most about, because that's the big issue for a lot of people. So if you could talk about like someone trying to get sober who thinks they can't do it and have had multiple attempts, rehab, whatever, wife, husband, parent, whatever, all of the story, that one. And then second, just coming to terms with higher power in a way that people can make it real to them. If you could talk about those two things, that'd be super wonderful.
When I'm dealing with people that are early in change, most of the time they just want to be heard. So a person has to work through trauma, because that's what it is. Whether, people, everybody's trauma is different. I always try to tell everybody that the best way to explain it is, there could be 4 of us in a car and we go out and we get in an accident. And I could get in a car and go, damn, that was close. Whew, good thing. Then the next person could be like, I'm never getting in the car again. We almost died. Then the next person, like everybody would have a different perspective. Trauma is perspective. So for me personally, I have to allow a person to feel that. And the only way that they're going to feel that is to be able to put it in words. I always tell everybody, if you want to see the picture, you got to take the pieces out of the puzzle box. So our lives are a puzzle, and all the pieces are in this box. And you're not going to see that picture until you bring them pieces out and start putting it together. So I have to allow a person to talk. And as they're talking, I interject with certain questions to create direction, right? Solution.
Mm-hmm.
Most people will have their own solution.
Always.
So you have to allow them, and I have this serious issue for a lot of years where my brain works a little bit different to most people. I've been programmed to death while I was in prison. Then I took courses and all this kind of stuff and programs and schooling. And so my brain goes from problem to solution very quickly. But it's a process. But my brain is trained. So I can go from, here's the problem, I can identify it, I can brainstorm it, and come up with the best solution in seconds a lot of the time. Most people's brains doesn't work that way. So especially when they're still in a cloud, if you're coming out of addiction. So you had to give them that time to be able to first see the problem.
Yeah.
Then let's brainstorm it and look at solutions. And then let's try the best solution. And if this isn't working, step over to the next one. And that's why I say about that silo effect. Like I'm sometimes it can be a little hard on guys. I'll be like, hey, get your shit together. What are you doing over there?
Mm-hmm.
But that's all about getting to know somebody and what their personality.
Mm-hmm.
So some guys need to be, take some tough love, and other guys just need love.
Yeah.
So it's getting to know a person, giving them time, giving them that energy allow them to see and get to know my story and who I am and where I've come from, and allow them that opportunity to see the hope, right? To see the journey, to see that it doesn't happen overnight. Don't sugarcoat stuff. I don't sugarcoat it. I'm like, I tell guys all the time, okay, look, you're making this decision to get into a relationship with a girl that's using. Okay, here is what the consequences are. Now you can't say that nobody told you.
Mm-hmm.
It's up to you. This decision is still yours. And then they relapse and come back, and I'm like, I don't want to tell you I told you so, but but what did you learn?
Right.
Right. That's a big part of it. It's for me to sit down and dictate to somebody. I don't do that, and I tell guys that when they come to ask for my sponsorship or mentoring or whatever, I tell them straight up, look, I'm not going to tell you what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Tell them that right from the go.
Mm-hmm.
I said, but what I will do is tell you what I've learned and let you make your own decisions on that. And I said, I'll help guide you as much as I can, and I'll give you information. Right? That's my job, is to provide information. Now, what you do with that information is completely up to you. The accountability side of things, like I said, some days guys just need to be hugged and loved and said, you're going to be all right, man. Just sit down, hold on, shut the fuck up, and the day's going to pass, right?
Yeah.
and then other times it's like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
Get your shit together here, man. Like, you see what you're doing, don't you? Do you see what you're doing? Well, then let's talk about this. What's causing you to continue this behavior that is going to be destructive? And we'll have open conversations about that stuff. Like I said, it's about the time, right? It's because I can go in and I can say, here's the problem, best options, this is the solution, do it. We could do that all day long, especially the people that have lots of experience with it. But my biggest piece, my biggest part is remembering that not everybody is where I am. But that works both ways. Because I had to remember that to learn too. To still be open to listening to what other people have to say and allow them to guide me in areas that I struggle with. Because like you said earlier, it's not like the top of the mountain. Here it is. I made it. It's all great. I wish I could tell you all that since I got in recovery, I got these little fairies that go around and they spread rose petals in front of me every day as I walk along. The reality is that I have to still learn. I still have to live life on life's terms. The key for me is how to do that without getting high or committing crime. That's it. That's a nutshell.
That's it. That's beautiful. I mean, that's
right? I have to learn how to live out here pro-socially to the best of my ability. Not everybody, if you're a human being, you're not going to be happy all the time. That's another key piece.
Yeah.
Our society tells us, take a pill, do this, do that. You'll be happy, happy, happy. That's not being human. We have this huge, wide range of feelings and emotions that we have to learn to live with.
Oh my God. We could talk for hours and hours. Right? I mean, that's a whole.
I didn't even know how to separate them in the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's another episode. I'm getting the feelings, honestly, because in the toxic positivity, when I talk to Jill Payne, Jill teaches about energy and she's an amazing coach and she helps a lot of people. But her big thing is toxic positivity. And we were talking about that and she's like, it's not about that. You got to acknowledge all that stuff. And the feelings is like, because for men, like it's anger or nothing.
Go to.
Right?
Go to.
And then.
For everything.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm feeling good. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Like people say, oh, you're feeling good. It's good. No. When I used to feel good, I'd be like, something's going on.
Yeah.
Something's happening. Something's sneaking up behind me here. Now I'm mad. Right?
Yeah. So I think that, the emotional piece is, I mean, I think that for me, that was the biggest,
mental,
biggest.
Spiritual.
Yeah.
It boils down to those three, really.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And learning the balance of that.
Yeah. And to know that you're human, like you're going to have like, it's not all, it's like, I think, so what I didn't know was like 1950s, like television. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say balance is a frame of mind. It's not balance. Nobody's ever perfect. I mean, every now and again, I feel like everything is great.
Yeah.
Everything's perfect. But in reality, it's knowing what my balance is what creates balance. So it's not physical or mental or spiritual. Balance is not that. Balance is knowing where I'm okay and knowing that something is always going to demand my attention. Family, work, my recovery, whatever that is that needs my attention, it's okay. I'm not going to be every day is not going to be the perfect amount of time at work, the perfect amount of time at the gym, perfect amount of time with family, perfect amount of time with my recovery programs. That's unrealistic. It's just knowing what that is works for me and recognizing when that's at a whack, what needs attention.
All right, so I could talk to you literally for hours, but we'll end on this for today, and then I'm sure we'll do this again. I look forward to it. So, thank you so much for your time, and thanks for this beautiful studio. This has honestly been
beautiful.
It's gorgeous, and talk about taking actions. I met the people that own this place years ago, and I said I wanted to do this. I'm sure they've heard it 1,000 times, and I'm so happy that 4 years later I get to be here and. This beautiful studio. But
listen, this is the best part of Halifax. You can see Dartmouth from it.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, right. Said no one ever. So the thing that I would like you to talk about, and then that will be enough for today. I think is the higher power piece. We'll end there. Is coming to terms in a real way with a higher power of your understanding. Like I think people really think it's like a not real. Like it's like, no, it's just, no, we're lying. And then it's a Christian God or no, it's Old Testament God. And like, really it's a higher power of your understanding.
100%.
So how could, again, to the new people that are really, they really, really want to get sober, and they really wrestle with that higher power piece. For the intellects, for the people that have tried so many times and feel like they just are, they can't get kicked down another. Like, what do you tell those people for all the different perspectives, for the judges and the lawyers and the homeless? There's, addiction gets everybody. For the higher power piece, yeah, that's a big one that I hear about for all the, what would you say to those guys?
I'd say educate yourself. Like I said, for me in the beginning, it was, that's what I had to do. I had this huge resentment towards religion. And so when I got in recovery and I started to move into the steps that we're talking about higher power and finding higher power, and I was like, well, I only know one. So let's see what's out there. So I started to read about different things. I started to educate myself. I started to ask questions. I started to talk to people that had different beliefs. If I close my mind, there's nothing that I can say to anybody. If a person looks at me and says, I don't believe in it, I could sit here and talk all day and all night, and it's not going to make a difference if they continue to say in their own mind, I don't believe it. If you can get a crack in the armor and a person is like, maybe there's something, that's all you need. Maybe there's something. Well, educate yourself about that. Billions of people on this planet believe in something higher than themselves, something bigger than themselves. And that's all it really is. When it comes down to crunch, it's believing that I am not the center of the universe. That's what it boils down to. If I'm not the center of the universe, let's explore. Because if I believe that I'm the center of the universe, I don't need to explore, because Pete's the center. So anybody needs to explore, they need to come to me.
Right.
So once I open my mind up to not being the center of the universe, that self-centered piece of our disease, once I do that, now I'm able to explore. Now I'm able to look. There's tons of things out there that, that work for people in their lives. I hear people talk about like the 12-step programs. I see this stuff online, and you hear people talk, they call themselves an addict, or they call themselves this and blah, 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 and that doesn't work. Well, I'm here to tell you, NA alone has about 80,000 meetings a week around the world. Something's got to work.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's just NA. So yeah. I can't even imagine what AA's probably got hundreds of thousands.
If I had my AI tool, I would ask it.
Right.
I'm sure there's a lot.
So, I mean, and that's, so if you think about it, these things are working in people's lives. So is different belief systems. I always tell everybody, where else can you go in the world where you can sit down in a circle and everybody can have a different higher power and everybody still love each other and hug each other when they get up and walk away?
Oh, it's so beautiful.
It's gorgeous, right?
So beautiful.
But you got to ask the questions. You got to open your mind up to it and say, yeah, maybe there's a possibility. For me personally, I'm a big energy guy. Mm-hmm. Mine is God. I know that there's something bigger than myself at work. I know that, and I work with this every day. I know what I put out into the world, I'm going to get back. I put a lot of negativity in the world for a lot of years, and I got it back full tilt. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden I started putting positive energy into the world, and my life completely changed.
Lo and behold.
Who would have thunk it? Imagine. Right? So, like I said, it's just about being, I'll tell you an experience that I had in early recovery. And I was kind of contemplating all this stuff and trying to figure get my footing and figure everything out that worked for me, because like I said, I didn't know anything that worked for me. I was at Walmart, and I was walking up the aisle, and this guy walked by me. I didn't know this guy from a hole in the ground. I didn't even know he was walking by me until I felt him. Right?
Yeah.
And I was like looking at this shirt or something, and I felt this energy walk by me. The hair stood up on the back of my neck. I don't know what that guy had going on in his life, but it was not a good energy. And like I said, I didn't even see him coming. I was paying attention to something else, and I felt it. And I went, whoa. Like I just stopped and I turned around and I felt this guy walk by me and I was like, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started to pay attention a little bit more. And I'm like, wow. I walk into rooms. How many times and this is when I started talking about this to other people, somebody said to me, well, how many times have you walked in the room and knew there was something going on without anybody opening their mouth? I went, well, all the time. They're like,
exactly. Yeah.
What's that? And I went, whoa.
Yeah.
Right? So on my hair stand, I was just discussing it. Right. So I mean, just like I said, opening your mind up to things and allowing yourself to learn and be a student is be teachable,
Amazing, man. This is incredible.
It's a journey, not a destination.
It's amazing. Right. It's so cheesy, but it's so true. It's
100%.
So is there anything else you want to just mention before, like as we to end today? Is there anything that's really that someone listening that you would just want them to hear, or something that you came in today that you didn't get to share, or something anything that's just you want to get off? Anything before we finish up?
No, I think we covered, a lot of great areas. I tell people all the time, this is one of my new sayings since I got my motorcycle license last year. Yeah. We didn't get into that story, but I first time I ever rode a motorcycle, I got my license last year, and a friend of mine in Calgary flew me out. Well, I flew out, and they loaned me a Harley Davidson, a Heritage, and we rode. That's right. 2,100 kilometers through the Rocky Mountains over into BC and back, and first time I ever rode on a bike. So I had this saying since that happened, and I'm like, enjoy the ride because you only get one ticket.
So good. And peddling dope.
I used to hustle dope. Now I hustle hope.
Right. And anything you want to promote, 7-Step, NA, any of that stuff?
I mean, all of it.
Yeah. Okay.
Like I said, all of it. Like if it's a person that has been in conflict with the law, and they've done time, they understand that core values that, are very hard to shake. If you live by core values for a certain amount of time, that old changing the hand thing is very difficult. And that's what we support. We support people that have had.
And it's 7step.com or
7steps.ca.
That's the
so you can find us, Google 7-Step Society. Okay. There will be multiple sites, different provinces in Canada. I work directly for Canada. And then, of course, all the anonymous programs, any support group, man, get churches, religions, I don't care what it is, connect. Mm-hmm. Connect. The opposite of addiction is connection. So because addiction silos us, right? It makes us very vulnerable, and it pushes us away from everybody and everything. So the
funniest thing is you believe when you're in it that it's bringing you towards things.
Right.
Which is remarkable.
But the opposite of that is connecting with something positive in your community. Like I said, I don't care what that is. I would go to any. I went to my first methamphetamine anonymous program. I just went to it last week in Edmonton. Okay. Never been. I never did meth. It wasn't really big when I was out there using. Right. Not around here. And then so somebody came to our 7-Step public forum, and they were like, "Oh, I'm going to methamphetamine," and I was like, I didn't even know they existed. And they're like, "Oh yeah, it's big out here," and I'm like, "You want to come?" And I'm like, "Hell yeah, let's go!" Right? Wow. So I still have that mindset. I'm still open-minded. Let's learn. Let's see. And you know what I seen in there? The same thing that I see in every other recovery program, people wanting to do better. And that's really what it's about. It's bringing people together, like-minded people together that want something different, that want to do something better and create a community that supports each other. It's not about having like a person of, I'm an addict, you're an alcoholic. It's about bringing people together and supporting each other to live differently. Like I said earlier, it's about that living pro-socially. It's about that accountability, that structure, right? The hope, right?
Really is. Honestly, Pete, I could talk to you for hours, but I think we did some great work today. Thanks. Thank you.
My pleasure, Mark.
1,000 times over. I've been wanting to do this is my dream actually to have a.
When I talk like this, it reinforces it in my own life too.
Yeah, me too. I was sitting there, I'm like, oh yeah, this one, this one. So yeah, of course. And this was a dream of mine. I'm so happy that you were my first in-person guest here. And I hope that there's hundreds and hundreds more episodes and you're on many more times.
I look forward to it. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Mark.